This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 41st time ever, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. This is, of course, the show where we take a look at the news and the events of the past week, some interesting stories I found on the internet to talk about, and, you know, kind of the drill right now. That's why the disclaimer was there at the beginning. So, let's not waste any more time and get right to it, because we do have a lot of stuff to get to this week. Unlike last week, where I barely found enough stuff to put a show together until at the end of the week on Friday. It was pretty busy right from the get-go on Monday, but before we get to those news stories, we of course got to go to the weekend box office, which shouldn't really be much of a surprise in general. I think every movie that came out this week, you can pretty much tell where it was going to go, so we can run through this pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and get to it. Let's start off with the number 5 movie this week, which was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, dropping down a spot from 4th to 5th. Only dropping 40% from last week, $5.4 million, bringing its total gross to $149.7 million, putting it past War for the Planet of the Apes for the second highest grossing film in the series, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check here, just to be accurate to you guys out there, because I know I make a lot of mistakes here, but I'm here to report the truth. So let's see. Yeah, I was off a little bit here. It's the 3rd highest grossing in terms of North American releases, in terms of the Reboot trilogy, and it's currently the lowest grossing of the worldwide releases, but there's still a lot of places this thing needs to open up at. So, regardless, though, this thing still has done very well. It's been the one summer movie that made a ton of money so far this summer, with the exception of the number 1 movie, which we'll get to, but it's already doubled its budget of $160 million, so they're good on that front there. Disney knows this is a success, so wouldn't be surprised if they announce the sequel coming up really soon. But let's get to one of the new releases this week, the number 4 movie, which was M. Night Shyamalan's daughter making her directorial debut with The Watchers. And obviously nobody wanted to watch The Watchers because it opened up at number 4 and didn't really make much of a dent at the box office. It made only $7 million with a budget of $40 million, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's... Yeah, I know this is dead air, but I'm just trying to see here for myself. It doesn't say a budget, that it does say that the film was self-financed by M. Night Shyamalan and sold to Warner Brothers for $30 million. So, yeah, this is not a good opening for this movie, no matter how you look at it. I mean, this is a film that... I mean, the premise is something that you would expect from Shyamalan. You have Dakota Fanning, who plays a young artist getting stranded in an extensive, immaculate forest in Western Ireland, where after finding shelter, she becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers, stalked by mysterious creatures each night. So, it definitely sounds like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but the film itself, the reviews for it have not been that strong. It feels like the people who don't like the film say it's a wannabe M. Night Shyamalan movie without even trying, and it's just kind of like, you know, it really doesn't feel like this. I don't think the advertising really sold it that well either. I think they just sold it on the fact that it's an M. Night Shyamalan production because his daughter's directing it, and it's just, you know, when people talk about nepotism, this is probably the worst of the nepotism aspect to it. Not to say that the movie is bad, because I haven't seen it yet, but, you know, I hope the conversation about nepotism in terms of, like, seeing your kids getting special treatment because the parent is well known. I think this will become a discussion going forward if this film doesn't gain any traction anytime soon. And M. Night Shyamalan has 2 movies with his daughters coming up this summer. The other one being Trap, which comes out in August, which is a Warner Brothers movie. In fact, what surprised me is, you know, this could probably all work together if the films actually do connect in some way, shape, or form, like The Watchers and Trap are actually part of one movie. If that's the case, then that would probably be awesome to do that. But then again, neither one of these movies really connect all that well. So it probably does not mean that this is going to be connected to anything, which means that this movie is completely pointless and just made because, hey, the daughter is the director of one of the most memorable horror films in the last 25 years, and yeah, didn't get a lot of good reviews. Did not get very good positive reviews, but low box office, a C- cinema score, which is not a good sign by any means, especially at a time when horror movies have actually been better received in general as of late. I mean, in terms of either critical or financial success, this just feels like a film that feels like one of those movies that just feels like it should be right in the category of the lesser horror films. I think it was just a bad idea to just release it on this weekend. Wait a couple weeks for like June 21st when there's literally nothing coming out for like big new releases except for the bike riders. I feel like they probably could have made more money there, but yeah, this one not so much. And Warner Brothers, this is not a good sign for your summer because you had this and then you have Furiosa or Mad Max Saga, which is crashing and burning right now. It's now out of the top 5 and it's dropped 60% more. Just made it at number 6 with $4.2 million, bringing its gross up to $58.7 million. And the worldwide gross is up to $144 million. This thing's cost like $160 to $200 million. So, yeah, this has not been a good summer for Warner Brothers, and it's probably going to get worse because we've got the Kevin Costner Horizon American Saga, which looks like it's going to bomb badly, and we also have Twisters, which need I say more about that one. But all that aside, let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the top 5. Here we go to number 3, which is John Krasinski's If, which hanging in there after starting off is underwhelming with the low box office that people were expecting. The film has held up pretty nicely because, well, family films keep bringing in the audiences. $8 million, 23.8% drop, basically 24%, bringing its gross up to $93.5 million after 4 weeks. Worldwide, it's up to $160 million. The budget on it is $110 million, so it should do very well. It should hang on enough to get to that $110 million budget. So it should be a profitable hit for Paramount Pictures, even though they were very scared about what was going to happen beforehand when the movie was not doing so well early on. And it's going to be a good month for John Krasinski because this will probably make its budget back. And then at the end of the month, he's got A Quiet Place Day 1, which he's producing, which means that and the early word of mouth on that is looking positive with close to $50 million possibly at the box office on opening weekend. But we'll wait to see what happens there. Speaking of family films that have held up nicely despite some trepidations, number 2, last week's number 1 movie, the Garfield movie, only dropping 28% from last week with $10 million this week, bringing its total gross to $68.6 million after 3 weeks domestically. But worldwide, it's closing in on $200 million, $192.7 million worldwide. This thing's going to surpass the Garfield movie from 2004 as the highest-grossing Garfield film, which isn't really saying a whole lot, but the film only cost $60 million, so it's already making its money back and then some. And like with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard a Garfield 2 coming out pretty soon, so definitely be on the lookout for that, which will bring us now to the number 1 movie. And after a couple of weeks of films that have underperformed and not held up as well as they probably should, this one actually overperformed for expectations a little bit here. Number 1 is Bad Boys Ride or Die. Bad Boys Ride or Die, which brought in $56 million on opening weekend. The second highest grossing opening weekend for Bad Boys after the first film, Bad Boys for Life, which I think brought in $67 million, if I'm not mistaken. Or somewhere around that, around 60 million. Let me double check here. Could have sworn it was 67. I'm looking at Martin Luther King Jr. weekend grosses. Let's close $62 million, which only $6 million off for this movie really is not that bad in general. And for a film that cost $100 million to make, the film has already surpassed that budget if you include worldwide grosses. And the film, well received by critics, did very well in terms of the box office, and it should be another hit that cements this Bad Boys series as a new franchise again. I mean, this is a series where you thought that with Bad Boys for Life they were kind of just scratching for ideas, but you bring these 2 directors in here, Bill and Falah, and they really find a way to, bring the audiences back in here. They found a way to do it with Bad Boys for Life, and now with this movie, they've done that again, and the reviews have been very good. The critical word of mouth is strong. The cinema score is an A-, which is really good. Even though that's the first one to not earn an A, but an A- is still very good in terms of longevity at the box office. And there really is not a whole lot of competition for Bad Boys Ride or Die until we get to A Quiet Place Day 1 at the end of the month. So this thing's got a couple of weeks before the competition really comes in here. I should have said about the Garfield movie, this week was probably its last big week to make money because, of course, next week all the eyes are going to be on Inside Out 2, which should be very positive, should be a success, but how big of a success it's going to be is mostly going to depend on how the reviews for it are, I think. But we'll see what happens there. But with Bad Boys Ride or Die, it just solidified that, hey, what happened with Will Smith a couple of years ago, that was something where, people are allowed to make mistakes, and I think people have just come to accept that Will Smith is not as bad as people made him out to be, which I'll delve more into that in just a second. But, I've talked about in my review for Bad Boys Ride or Die that there were videos going out where Will Smith actually went to Cinemark theaters disguising himself, like he just had his mask on, and he was in there watching Bad Boys Ride or Die with the audiences. And it leads to, when the movie's over, everyone's coming out of there, and you see Will Smith coming out of there going like, hey, I hope you enjoyed the movie, and everyone's just like, oh my god, it's Will Smith. And it's a cool scene. You could say that it's because, hey, Will Smith is in my theater. How the hell did that happen? But it's been something that's been done before with other movies. Dwayne Johnson does it a lot, but it's fun to see that. It's fun to see that Will Smith still has a lot of respectability around him. And like I said, what happened a couple of years ago, that was like one of those moments where he went off the deep end, and I think people understood that, hey, we're human beings. We're allowed to make mistakes sometimes, and that's just one of those moments where I think a lot of people really came around to really realize that, okay, tonight you're not acting like the person we think you are, but we still respect you as a person. I think that's what a lot of people really do admire about Will Smith, and Martin Lawrence too. Martin Lawrence has done a lot of things in his life that some people might shun, but we still like him a lot, even though he doesn't make as many movies as he usually does anymore. But I still think Martin Lawrence is fun, man. I still like seeing him in these movies. I'm really excited to see where they go from here. These movies feel like the movies that should be for Sony. This should be their Fast and Furious, their Mission Impossible, like a chance to make this franchise a must-see event now with every new movie that comes out. And with these directors involved here, I mean, the possibilities are endless if they keep them around here, which I hope they do. I mean, they've already gotten a bad rap in life before, so with another movie in terms of with Batgirl, which, I'm sorry, that movie should still be seen, even if it's bad. Let us see the movie. It's already in the books. Just let us see it, man. But no, of course, David Zassel's not going to do that, because that would mean he's not a complete asshole, a scumbag, if you will. But I did want to talk about the Will Smith thing with the Oscar slap, and I've kind of talked about it in various forms for the last couple of years. But for those of you who haven't heard about my thoughts on that, I might as well just go ahead and talk about it right here, real quick. Though I won't be too long on it. So my whole thing with the Oscar slap, obviously when it happened, I thought it was wrong of Will Smith to do that, but I'm still of the argument that it's both Will Smith and Chris Rock's fault. Will Smith mostly because of what he did. Like, he shouldn't have gone up there and slapped Chris Rock for a joke, and Chris Rock, that was just a terrible joke to begin with. Like, why are we bringing up G.I. Jane in 2022? I mean, that's just one of those moments where I never understood why that was the thing that needed to be brought up, because it's like G.I. Jane came out in 1997, and nobody was really talking about that movie until that moment happened. And it's just like, come on, man. It's just like that, yeah, Will Smith. Okay, yeah, he's the one that's most at fault for what happened that night, but Chris Rock, the fact that he mostly got off unscathed by this, just like he told a terrible joke, and it's just like, it wasn't even a funny joke to begin with. But what I love about the way people acted, they acted like Will Smith could have committed murder that night. Like, apparently his slap was so hard that he could have killed Chris Rock. And it's just like, come on, man. Unless Will Smith is literally Hancock and he's slapping, and he has been known to kill people with even the touch of the palm of his hand. That is something that is just, it's just inexcusable, and it's just like it's just stupid to think about. Like, it's stupid to think that, oh, he could kill somebody. It's just like, a slap cannot kill somebody. Now, unless it is, now if he showed up with a gun on stage and shot him, yeah, then he could have killed somebody. Then it's just like, like, a slap and a gun are two different things. So, like, so stuff like that was just kind of like, yeah, that's just. And to make matters worse, there's four reasons why I hate this moment in particular. I already talked about the first two. Number three, the third thing I hate about this particular moment was the fact that the Oscars were begging for a moment that everyone was going to be talking about the next day. Like, they are trying to get off of this image of like, we're so safe and sanitized, and we want that big moment. And we get to a moment like this where, okay, here's your moment where you can have that. Here's where you can have that. What are you going to do about it? Complain and bitch about it. That's all they did. They just talk about like, well, that wasn't supposed to be. It's like they were close to complaining about. If they were complaining about this moment being like, well, this is something that we did not need at the Oscars and all that. So it's like, you wanted a moment like this because everyone hated for you for being so safe and sanitized, and now you have a moment where you have a purpose for why live TV is so fun to watch. And then you went off and went like, oh, that's not what we wanted at all. And the fourth reason why I hate this moment in particular was because of how everybody else was just like, people that weren't even involved in this incident, the people that were not involved in this incident were largely just like, how do you feel about it? Like, it was mostly like white actors in general. Like, everyone was talking about like, like it's just like, well, if how did this affect? It was basically like, how did this affect me? How does this affect me as a person in general? Who cares about what happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock? How do I feel about it? It's just like, I mean, it's just. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The comedians, I get it. The comedians, I feel like they do have a right to say something about it because, like, they're comedians. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to tell jokes. And, yeah, they can condemn Will Smith as much as they want to. But at the same time, though, it's just like they tried to put this all together. Everybody who complained about this tried to make it about themselves. Like, they didn't care about what was going on between Will Smith, Chris Rock, and Jada Pinkett Smith. They didn't care about that whatsoever. They just saw that moment and was just like, I wonder how I can put myself in this situation. And it's just like, moments like that were just like so, like, it's just so ridiculous. And I hated those. And there was even arguments about like, well, Will Smith's Oscar could be taken away from him. It's just like, okay, well, if you want to do that, go take Roman Polanski's Oscar away from him. Take away John Wayne's Oscar away from him. Take away Marlon Brando. Jack Nicholson. There's all these actors out there who have done some dirty shit in the past, and yet you continue to, and yet you will let them keep their Oscars. I can think of other ones too. Kevin Spacey, of course, is another one. Harvey Weinstein, the many movies he forced the Academy to vote Best Picture on. Go ahead and take those Oscars away from him. Like, why is what Will Smith did more important to possibly take his Oscar away from them than all these other people who have done more atrocious shit than this? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just my personal opinion on it. I know that it really doesn't matter much of anything because nobody here is really going to say anything about it. But to me at least. But the whole thing they blew it completely out of proportion. They weren't prepared for a moment that they were waiting to have happen so they could be must-see television, and they completely butchered it. Now, the 10-year ban, I get it. I get why they did it, and, Will Smith said, okay, I accept and respect the Academy's decision, and you know what? I'll give, he can come back in 10 years. So so come back in 10 years. Come back, make it a big moment for him to come back onto the stage, and you know what? Things will get back to the way they were before. And it's just like they just blew it completely out of proportion, and it was just kind of like it was ridiculous what happened there. And I only brought it up because of the fact that there were so many people who were waiting for this movie to come out. They were all waiting for this moment, thinking that, okay, this is when we're finally going to see the downfall of Will Smith because, this movie, we're going to finally figure out that the box office will tell us what people really think about the situation, and people didn't really give a crap about that. It's just like, yeah, they realized that he's a human being. It was a momentary lapse of judgment, and they were more than happy to go see him and Martin Lawrence on the big screen again in this particular movie. The fact that this movie even has a moment that's parroting what happened at the Oscars, like even Will Smith knows that they took it completely out of proportion. So, yeah, I'm glad to see that this movie did very well. I'm glad to see that most people are completely forgetting about are letting Will Smith slide about what happened a couple years ago. It happened. It was a bad look for him, but he came back. But he's back in the swing of things, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next and going forward. I'm really looking forward to see if this will change anything in general, in terms of the general opinion of it, which I don't think it should. I mean, it doesn't really. I think it should prove that, hey, this guy still is a reliable draw, and people will still go out and see his movies no matter what. So, alright, so that's all I wanted to say about that. So let's go ahead and move on to the news stories we have here. And we do have a lot of them to get to. I'll be real quick on those as well. Okay, so there's been updates to this particular story that I'm about to get into here, but the bottom line is that Skydance is looking like they're going to win Paramount. This was a story that broke on Monday, that Paramount, according to, this is from the New York Post, Paramount Global has agreed on terms to an $8 billion merger with Skydance, the Hollywood studio the media giant has collaborated with to crank out blockbusters like the Mission Impossible franchise, according to a report. The report coming from CNBC. Skydance, founded by David Ellison, the son of software tycoon Larry Ellison, has agreed upon a proposed deal with Paramount Special Committees to pay $2 billion for Paramount Picture parent company National Amusements. The deal could mark a long-anticipated cash-out by Sherry Redstone, the daughter of the late media tycoon Sumner Redstone, who is in the controlling shareholders of National Amusements. An announcement could come as soon as Tuesday at Paramount's annual shareholders meeting. We'll get to that in just a second. We reviewed the financial terms of the proposed Paramount Skydance transaction over the weekend, and we are reviewing them, a National Amusements spokesperson said. Although the deal is valued at $8 billion, up from about $5 billion under earlier terms discussed between Skydance and Paramount, in addition to the namesake movie studios, Paramount owns CBS and cable TV networks including MTV, Nickelodeon, and Comedy Central. Previously, Redstone would have received less than $2 billion for her stake, and the Class B shareholders would have bought out $11 a share. As part of the deal, Skydance will buy out nearly half of Paramount's Class B shares for $4.5 billion, $15 apiece, giving shareholders a stake in the newly formed company. Skydance, which has the backing of private equity firms Redbird Capital and KKR, will also pay down Paramount's debt by adding $1.5 billion in cash to the studio's balance sheet. So this was on Monday, and everyone was expecting at this big interview on Tuesday, this big presser on Tuesday, that the news was going to break. And then there was a bit of a snag, and let me see if I can find the snag right here, because it seemed like it was pretty much set to go that Paramount and Skydance were going to merge. But then, let me see. This might be the best one I get here. This is from Deadline Hollywood. Shares of Paramount Global's edged lower Thursday, day 3 in the red, amidst lingering uncertainty about Skydance's latest offer. With bigger than anticipated sweeteners for Class B shareholders, it was approved by Paramount's special board committee and sent out to controlling shareholder Sherry Redstone, but with no announcement forthcoming. Redstone controls Paramount through family holding company NAI, which owns about 80% of the company's Class A voting shares. She's also had the last word on, and Skydance wasn't necessarily going to be an immediate slam dunk. But Deadline also hears Redstone continues to explore 2 other options as well as the Skydance offer that formally landed on her plate over the weekend. One of the 2 is a bid from investment group led by Stephen Paul. Deadline hears there is one other interested party. Both of those proposals, they may not be formal offers yet, would only involve acquiring Redstone's controlling stake in NAI, no merger. It's not clear if either is feasible or FCC can plan. Separately, Sony, which is interested in a deal directly from Paramount, continues its due diligence. Meanwhile, the tone and tenor of the ongoing negotiations with Skydance are clear, but may be strained. The last offer from David Ellison, backers Larry Ellison and Redbird Capital reduced the cash paid to Redstone. We kind of already delved into this already. So it was looking like on Monday that Skydance was finally going to pull the bid and actually go full speed on the bid. And then all of a sudden they said, and then Sherry Redstone said, "Oh my, it's not so fast." And so we're still kind of in a holding pattern here, but it's looking more and more likely that Skydance will eventually get it. But again, it's too soon to tell whether or not this will actually stay true, because things like this can change in an instant. Skydance Studios still feels like the front runner right now. I don't think Sony is completely in on it, so again, this is a story that we'll continue to follow up on here, but the latest update, which I thought was going to be the end of it all on Monday, and now there's a full other story altogether behind the scenes of this, so again, buckle up, because we're far from done on this topic altogether, so that's that story. Let's move on to story number 2. I bring that up because American Gladiators is on its way back, man. The intro for that show, that's the intro. I was trying to find the theme song here, and I'm sure I can find it here real quick. Give me 1 second. Here it is. I mean, how can you not remember that? If you grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, that was one of those things when you're watching syndicated TV on Saturday night. You didn't have school, you turn on the television, and there was American Gladiators. And it's a show that still very much holds up over time. I even like the 2008 reboot they did, but Amazon Prime is working on a new version of American Gladiators. I have the story here from Variety. Amazon Prime Video has ordered a reboot of the iconic competition series American Gladiators and is currently searching for contenders that can pass the test of speed and strength to take on the Gladiators in the ring. It will also include new and classic challenges like Gauntlet, Hang Tough, and the Eliminator. This is from Barry Posnick, General Manager of MGM Alternate Evolution Media. Doing a cross-country casting search is exciting for us and for the fans. Our goal is to find a real cross-section of America's fitting and fiercest competitors. This is the ultimate in sports entertainment. The original series ran from 1989 for 7 seasons until 1996. It was hosted by Joe Theismann and Mike Adamle and includes over 30 gladiators during its original run in the U.S. The franchise later expanded internationally with shows in the UK, Australia, Japan, Denmark, South America, and more. Gladiators premiered on January 13, 2024 and brought in 6 million viewers with 9.8 million premiere viewers over the first 28 days, making it the biggest launch for a new entertainment series on BBC One since 2017. So naturally, American Gladiators is coming back because everything's going to come back at some point. And like I said, I've liked the other the versions of American Gladiators, and it'd be really cool to see them come back on there again. I mean, like if you're going to bring something back from the dead, bring a show like this back, because it was such a show that was such a fun show to watch. I mean, it was fun watching these regular people going against these muscle-bound men and women and competing to become the gladiator down the road. It's just like, it's a really fun show. There's so many great aspects to it. I mean, it's just, what more can I say, man? It's a great show. I'm only looking forward to seeing it coming back on the air pretty soon, and definitely can't wait to check it out. So, quick one on that one. Let's move on to story number 3. So it's hard to believe we're only a couple months away from 2 years after the release of Prey, which was a phenomenal Predator in-universe movie that was such a brilliant... It was such a nice return to form for the Predator movies in general, and it's not surprisingly that they're getting the same people back together again to do another story within the Predator universe. Deadline Hollywood has this story. After announcing the studio would be expanding on its Predator universe earlier this year, 20th Century and Dan Trachtenberg's next standalone picture, Badlands, looks to be gaining momentum with some serious star power. Sources close to Deadline say that Elle Fanning is in negotiations to star in the film, with Trachtenberg directing. Trachtenberg co-wrote the script with Patrick Asen. 20th Century had no comment. Plot details are being kept under wraps, other than it will feature everyone's favorite extraterrestrial big game hunter. It is also not known about release plans, as the last film exclusively streamed on Hulu, breaking numerous viewership records for the streamer. But given that 20th Century has been very much back in the theatrical game with films like Boogeyman and the upcoming Alien Romulus film bowing in theaters, a theatrical premiere isn't out of the question. Deadline Hollywood reported earlier this year that when Prey premiered in the summer of 2022, it not only broke streaming records for Hulu, but earned some of the best reviews in the franchise history, the culmination of it nominated for a Best Movie at this year's Emmy Awards. Since that successful relaunch, 20th Century is looking to not just move forward with another film, but expand on the universe where Trachtenberg spearheaded in. While Prey features a cast of relatively unknowns and rising stars like Amber Midthunder, execs on Trachtenberg wanted to try and land an established star for their new standalone pick and begin taking meetings with talent. Insiders close to the project say Fanning is a fan of the franchise, and once executives got wind of her interest, moved to set a meeting with her and Trachtenberg. Following that meeting between the two, Fanning was on board, and once the deal closes, momentum is expected to pick up with the hopes to shoot later this year. As for a sequel to Prey, sources say that while this is still early development, a Prey 2 is still in the works. That would return the film's original setting, and with Prey star Amber Midthunder potentially returning. Sources stress no talent is attached to the film, but the interesting element is that even though there has been 7 films with the infamous alien, there's never been an instance where the star of a previous film has returned to reprise their role. So exciting news for Predator. I mean, you're not only getting a Prey movie coming out, but another movie continuing the story within the universe. And it's interesting because the Predator movies have moved in the direction I wish the Alien movies had done. This week we got the Alien Romulus trailer, which looks pretty badass, honestly. That trailer looks really damn cool. I can't wait to see what happens when that comes out in August, I should say. October. What am I thinking? But with the Predator movies, most of them have not been bad films. I mean, yeah, you got Alien vs. Predator Requiem and the Shane Black with the Predator, that one was very disappointing in general. But Prey stepped it back up in the right direction, and I'm really excited to see what the direction is they take with these films going forwards. And I'm really excited to see where Dan Trachtenberg takes it, and I'm really excited to see where they go from there and how they expand on this universe in general. I mean, I think it's a very cool idea to have them expand the universe in general here and see what they could do with it. And again, it would be cool to see another Prey film coming out too. I mean, there's a lot of things to get really excited about in terms of the Predator universe, and for either one, I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go from there. So definitely can't wait to check those ones out. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story. Speaking of movies that we're getting really close to seeing, Deadpool and the Wolverine comes out in less than 2 months from now. I can't believe we're almost there. And the early word of mouth must be good enough for Marvel Studios to tell Shawn Levy, we want you to be the guy to direct the next Avengers movie, because that's what seems like it's going to happen right now, as I'm looking at this story from Deadline Hollywood. And it says, as Deadpool and Wolverine tracks huge ahead of its July 26th release and looms as a summer box office savior, we can reveal that director Shawn Levy is the top choice and is having early conversations to direct another Marvel Studios pick, the next Avengers movie. Deadline hears that Levy has been given the latest script by Michael Walden, though sources add that he has not given an answer whether he will take the job or not, and the studio is still planning to meet with other directors while they wait on a decision from him. Marvel Studios could not be reached for comment. We can't say for sure that Levy will take the job. He expects to be heavily involved as a director and executive producer on the final season of Stranger Things, and there's also a Star Wars film in the future. Still, the prospect of Levy steering the next Avengers makes a hell of a lot of sense as Marvel boss Kevin Feige continues to sort out the next iteration of his superhero empire. There have been 4 Avengers blockbusters, 2 directed by Joss Whedon, the $1.5 billion grossing Avengers, and the $1.4 billion Age of Ultron, and 2 by Joe and Anthony Russo, the $2.05 billion Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Endgame's $2.8 billion global cume makes it the highest-grossing film of all time upon its release in 2019, until re-release pushes James Cameron's original Avatar to $2.9 billion. Even with no director set and the set only recently coming in, Marvel has begun working hard in recent months to pull this together so shooting can begin next year on one of Marvel's largest projects to date. Sources close to both the projects say more than 60 MCU characters could reprise their roles, including everybody from Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, and Benedict Cumberbatch to Tom Hiddleston, Simu Liu, and Karen Gillan. Unlike the first 4 films, in which there was a core group that consisted of Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Hemsworth, and Ruffalo. Many of the characters in this film would have equal footing, making it more of an ensemble feature instead of a handful of characters leading the team. Plot details are unknown, and following Jonathan Majors' exit from the MCU as Kang following his reckless assault conviction in December, it is unknown when the central villain will be back, or the film could potentially include multiple antagonists. The Avengers production is another huge swing for Marvel, given the projects it will impact going forward. But in Levy, they would have a director who is with an inviolable track record of his, many on a tentpole level with the MCU demands. Levy's credits include Night at the Museum, The Pink Panther, Big Fat Liar, Date Night, Real Steel, Free Guy, The Atom Project, and the Stephen Knight created series All the Light We Cannot See. So bottom line here is that Shawn Levy is a heavy consideration for the directing job for the next Avengers movie, and if he's doing as well as he probably is with Deadpool and Wolverine, I would more than be willing to accept that. I would really be more than willing to accept him as the director, and let's see what he can do with it. I think there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of potential for what they could do here if they go forward with this. So, yeah, not much more to say about this one except that it's definitely something that I would say definitely do it. Make it a possibility. Make it something that could actually happen. So yeah, not much more to say about that one, and we're still probably a long way away from figuring out what's going to happen with the next Avengers movie, but we know what's going to happen with the next Hunger Games movie. So yeah, there's a brand new Hunger Games movie Thursday. Suzanne Collins just announced a new novel for the book that was coming out. I think it's coming out later this year, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see that other story. Next year, March 18th, 2025. So the book was announced on Thursday morning. Not but a couple of hours later, Lionsgate was already talking about, we're making another Hunger Games movie based off of this new book that's coming out. I've got the story here from the Hollywood Reporter. The screen adaptation unveiled on Thursday by Adam Fogelson, chairman of the Lionsgate Motion Picture Group, has Francis Lawrence in talks to direct the adaptation from Nia Jacobson and Brad Simpson's colorful banner. Lawrence, screenwriter Michael Arndt, and producer Johnson earlier teamed with Lionsgate on 4 feature film adaptations. Catching Fire and Mockingjay took in $3.3 billion at the box office. Collins and the publisher Scholastic announced Sunrise on the Reaping as the 5th book of the series on Thursday and will be released on March 18, 2025. There's no word down on the casting of the film, but Lionsgate has a wide theatrical release set for November 20th, 2026. Set in the Hunger Games universe, Sunrise on the Reaping returns to the world of Panem 24 years before the events of the Hunger Games and time for the reaping of the 50th Hunger Games, also known as the Second Quarter Quell. This is from Lionsgate's Fogelson. The Second Quarter Quell is legendary and looms large over the history of the games, even in the time of Katniss Everdeen, a quarter century later. Like fans around the globe, we are eagerly awaiting this exciting return to Panem. The 50th Hunger Games are noteworthy given that the victor was Hamish Abernathy, the only winner from District 12 prior to Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark's dual win 24 years later. Hamish, who, like all victors, went on to become a mentor to tributes for his district, was played by Woody Harrelson in the Hunger Games adaptation. So it's going to be a prequel where Woody Harrelson. That'd be a much different movie if Woody Allen was in the Hunger Games. I will tell you that. But Woody Harrelson his character from those movies is going to be the focal point of this new movie. And who do you get for a younger Woody Harrelson? I really don't know for certain. They'll probably go with a relative newcomer because that's what they went with who's the guy? Coriolanus Snow, who was played by Tom Blythe in The Hunger Games: The Battle of Songbirds and Snakes. But I've liked the Hunger Games movies in general, some less than others, but my whole thing is that the fact that they're rushing this out not even before the new book comes out. I mean, this book still has about almost a full year to come out, and then it's going to get a movie release over a year after that. And, I mean, The Battle of Songbirds and Snakes came out in 2020, and we got a film in 2023, mostly because of COVID and all the production delays we had on that one. But I don't know. To me, it just feels kind of weird they're rushing this along as quickly as they can. But at least with this, they're not doing the same thing as the Fantastic Beasts movies, where they're just doing the same shit over and over again. So there's at least that. I mean, I like the last one, The Battle of Songbirds and Snakes. So I'm cautiously optimistic to see where they go with this film. I definitely want to see what they do here. So yeah, it's one I'm definitely looking forward to checking out, because I have liked the other Hunger Games movies in general, so I am really interested to see where they go from here. So, but the Hunger Games was not the only big new movie announcement this week, as we'll go ahead and move on to our next story, and that is that the Angry Birds are back. The Angry Birds movie 3. It's finally happening this week. It's interesting because it doesn't say that Sony is involved with it, but I think they waited to see if the Garfield movie was going to make its budget back, and then they said, and then the movie made its budget back and said, okay, we can now move forward with this film, because it's been 5 years since the last Angry Birds movie. And here's the story from Deadline Hollywood, talking about the production on this. Rovio Entertainment Corporation, Sega, and Namit Malhotra's production company Prime Focus Studios are in the works on the Angry Birds Movie 3 with DNEG Animation attached as animation partner. Prime Focus Studios, Rovio, and Sega will produce the movie in association with One Cool Group, Flywheel Media, and Dentsu. Sorry. Part Part 3 will see the further adventures of Red and Chuck, voiced again by Jason Sudeikis and Josh Gad. More casting news will be coming soon. The film follows the success of the first 2 Angry Birds movies, which together have grossed more than $500 million around the world. Sony was the distribution partner on the first 2 movies, which were based on the popular games. So essentially, it's kind of like the Paddington movies. I mean, they're not really related to one specific studio. So it'll probably go to somebody like a Warner Brothers, maybe Disney if they really want to get their hands on it. Or, we're kind of running out of studios here. Paramount possibly. Or even an independent studio like Lionsgate, that's always a possibility too. Or maybe they make amends with Sony. Who knows? I mean, the Garfield movie did pretty well for them, so that's not completely out of a possibility. The Angry Birds movie 3 will be directed by John Rice, who directed the first film. The screenplay will be written by Thurk Van Orman, who wrote the second film and also was involved with the marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. The film will also be executive produced by alongside Toru Nakahara, who did Sonic the Hedgehog, John Cohen, who did the Garfield movie, Dan Chuba, who did the Mitchells vs. the Machines, criminally underrated animated movie, and Carla Connor. That's pretty much what they got here in terms of what this is about. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that we're getting an Angry Birds movie 3 after all these years. I mean, the funny thing with the movie, I never understood the complete hatred of the first movie. I mean, the first movie got thrashed by critics when it came out. I've heard some people say that it's even that they think it's the worst thing Sony has done since that it's worse than the Emoji Movie. And it's just like, really, like, the Emoji Movie is a terrible movie. The Angry Birds movie has jokes. It actually has funny ideas. It actually was nicely animated. It was a fun film. But Angry Birds movie 2, I think, really turned a lot of people around and said that, hey, there actually is something here. And I was like, it's funny because I was one of those people. I actually went to see it at an early screening, and a couple weeks before the movie came out, and I wasn't really that big of a fan of it. I still liked it, but I didn't think it was as good as the first film. And then I went to go see it again in theaters. The second is a couple weeks later, and then once I got around to it, it was just like, okay, I've come around to it. I have indeed come around to it. It's a film that I think really is a lot better than a lot better than I've expected it from before. It did eventually grow on me. The more I see the second movie, the more I'm just like, okay, I can definitely see where people are coming from here. I do think it is a slightly better movie than the first film, and I did like the first film a lot. I did like these movies a lot, and I'm really excited to see what they do with another one. I'm really curious to see where they go with it. I wonder if they're going to get any of the other people back from it, and more importantly, I'm really interested to see which studio takes it over. Is it going to be Sony again, or will it be any of these other studios out there that take a look at this and give it the opportunity to possibly make a profit off of it? But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see where they take it from there. So those were all the big major news stories from the last week. But let's go ahead and wrap it up with a stupid story, and I mean stupid story of the week time. So last week on this show, we ended our show by taking a look at a stupid story involving 2 YouTube pranksters, in quotes. One of them was a registered sex offender who decided to go harass a campus. They got arrested, and they got into even more trouble because of the fact that one of them was a registered sex offender. Now, that was bad. But this right here is really stupid. I saw the story on a Saturday morning. I wasn't even really paying attention to it, but on first glances, I just looked at the story. It's just like, okay, you log onto your computer, the MSN has this thing where it shows you like all these big stories of the week, and then at the corner of my eye, I see a story that says, Disney execs receive death threats over Buffy the Vampire Slayer rights. And I clicked on it just to see what it was about. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I read the story. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my entire life. So this story comes from The Blast, which this is a story that I took from MSN, but it starts off from The Blast. But the story goes as this. Embrace yourself, because this goes completely off the rails pretty quickly. A man appears determined to acquire the rights to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and is willing to go to any lengths to achieve his goal. According to documents obtained by The Blast, 23-year-old Seth Daniel Stewart, a.k.a. Angel Cross, like, even that name is just... Seth Daniel Stewart, a.k.a. Angel Cross, has been threatening Disney executives, demanding he gets the rights to own the popular television show. Specifically, the individual has sent violent threats to several Disney executives and attorneys, stating that he wants to purchase the rights to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, leading to a request for a restraining order. Now, first of all, that alone is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. Like, you're gonna try to tell Disney that you want the rights to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and you're gonna do whatever it takes to get him. That's like me telling them I want the rights to The Simpsons because I'm a big Simpsons fan, and if you don't do it, I'm going to threaten you with everything that I have with me. And it's just like you understand how stupid that is, especially with the way I just said it, because I didn't. You get the idea of what I was trying to say here, but let's keep going, because this goes off the rails pretty quickly. Per the documents obtained by The Blast, Mr. Stewart has contracted several Walt Disney Company executives and attorneys in September of 2002, stating that he wants to purchase the rights to the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. One of these individuals is Tanya Lee Menton, a lawyer for the Walt Disney Company. Since September 2022, Mr. Stewart's contest has escalated into violent threats, including on May 10, 2024, when he left voicemail stating, "Tanya Menton and everyone that works at Walt Disney World, I am coming after you and your souls within the next couple of weeks. Don't take this too kindly because I'm going to come after you." Another stated, "I'm going to kill Tanya Menton and then I'm going to kill all the woke executives at Disney." You just had to bring up that four-letter word. Again, somebody that has no idea what the hell the meaning of the word woke is. Just in case some of you out there need an explanation to what the meaning of the word woke is, allow me to fill you in yet again, because, again, this is clearly somebody that has no idea what the hell this word really means. So let me go ahead and read you the definition of the word woke, if you will. Once again, the Oxford English Dictionary defines woke as follows. Woke, adjective, originally well-informed, up-to-date, now chiefly alert to racial or social discrimination and injustice, frequently stay woke. And if you still need a reasoning for what that is, the meaning of the woke is aware of and actively attentive to important social facts and issues, especially issues of race and social injustice, racial prejudice and discrimination. That's what the word woke means, and clearly none of these people out there who are doing this knows what the hell that is. But shit gets deeper. Furthermore, on May 14, 2024, Mr. Stewart left more voicemails to the Walt Disney Company stating, "I know where you live. I'm going to come visit you. If you don't give me what I want, it's going to happen in a couple months or less. Good luck and be ready for me, your Satan overlord." This guy's clearly out of his mind. He literally says, "I am so mentally deranged and I'm coming after you," per the legal docs. Within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to first come after you, and then I'm going to come after Tanya Menton, those dipshit wolf people that work at 20th Television and the Walt Disney Company, the same voicemail said. The legal documents also claim that Seth Daniel Stewart has threatened to bomb Disney and mentioned letters of a white powdery substance. Like, this dude is going all over the map here. Like, you're bringing an anthrax into this, too? He's also reportedly offered to order Domino's Pizza to Mrs. Menton's home and the Disney offices at all hours of the night, demonstrating his personal knowledge of Miss Menton and Disney's employees' personal information and addresses. Oh no, he sent them Domino's Pizza. What a horrible person this guy is. Like what a monster he really is. I'm going to continue on here. Between May 5th, 2023 and May 2nd, 2024, Disney and Mrs. Menton received dozens of voicemails from Mr. Stewart requesting that Disney grants him the rights to purchase Buffy the Vampire Slayer and singing songs like "Never Gonna Give You Up" per the legal docs. Between January 1st and January 16th, 2024, Miss Menton received several strange and threatening emails from Mr. Stewart, which includes older pictures of Mrs. Menton and other Disney employees. The emails stated that his actions were meant to teach you all a lesson on what happens when you mess with an autistic person. So now he's autistic too. This is an autistic, mentally deranged terrorist who, he goes, I'm pretty sure this guy goes online and looks for, what are some things that I can use as threats to people? Anthrax, a white powdery substance, bomb threats. I'm on a roll here. Disney discovered that the personal information of Disney employees, including Mrs. Menton, were posted on the dark web. On January 29, 2024, Ms. Menton received an email from the person purporting to be Seth Kingsley, president and CEO of Kingsley Entertainment, that claims to be interested in knowing if the rights to the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer are available for licensing opportunities. President and CEO of Kingsley Entertainment, really? This is insane, man. Several more threatening and concerning emails were sent in the following days, weeks, and months, including one that says, "I am the Lord your God. I brought you out of Egypt. I do not want you to be slaves in Egypt anymore. I will turn against you. Then your enemies will win the battle over you. You will run away, and I'm going to break you, and I'm going to torture you, and that you're all going to be mine in Satan's kingdom." Another says, "You're going to pay for what you've done, and when you pay, you're going to burn in hell. I'm going to watch you burn like a chicken in the oven. Oh yeah, it's going to be really tasty when I grow up." Ha 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 ha. He literally says this. You're going to burn, your mother's going to burn, your sister's going to burn, your wife's going to burn, and all your children are going to be mine. You know what this person reminds me of? The kid from Cool Cat Saves the Kids, or something. It was something like that. This dude literally sounds like that same kid from Cool Cat Saves the Kid, the bully in that movie.
Come here, boy. Oh, shit.
It's Cool Cat, and he's fast! I'm gonna run! You better run! This guy will trip him, and he'll go fly on his face!
I mean, okay, I took that from the Double Toasted review of Cool Cat Saves the Kids, which you should watch, by the way. It's really hilarious stuff, but you see what I'm talking about here? There's one part of the movie where this bully is like, "Oh no, it's Cool Cat! I better run!" Ah! Like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. It's just like, just scream out threats. Like, this guy, I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of those people that goes out and screams bomb at an airport and expects people to detain him right away. Like in the middle of an airport too. Like, this is a guy that just feels like he's out of his mind, and yet comes off as sounding like someone who obviously needs a lot of help. And we're coming to the end of the story here, but Disney's lawyer Tanya Menton has suffered extreme emotional distress and anxiety as a result of Mr. Stewart's incessant contacts and threats of violence. She's tired of this shit, and has filed a restraining order. Per the doc, she requests Mr. Stewart not harass, intimidate, molest, attack, strike, stalk, threaten, assault, hit, abuse, destroy personal property of, or disturb the peace of the person. If granted, it's not even granted yet. If granted, he cannot commit acts of unlawful violence or make threats to violence to the person, or follow or stalk Miss Menton during work hours, or to or from the place of work. The restraining order would also forbid him to contact Miss Menton directly or indirectly by any means. This whole thing is over the rights to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which, when at any point was Disney going to give up the rights to Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Like I know people want Disney to go back to put Fox back where it was before, but I'm sorry, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. Like, this dude clearly has a lot of problems. You know what he reminds me of? This guy Daniel Lawson. If you've ever heard of this guy Daniel Lawson, if you don't, he's a guy that goes online. He's like a rapper or something like that, but like he's a guy that has a lot of mental problems. I think he's got like autism and all that, and like every time people come into his life and try to help him, he just can't help himself. And like, the cops usually will take him into jail for one night or so, and then nothing, and then they never do anything about it afterwards. They just let him go out there again, just keep doing the stupid shit that he does over and over again. That's what this guy feels like. This guy needs help, man. This guy seriously needs a lot of help in general. Plus, there's no way that Disney is getting rid of Buffy the Vampire Slayer or any of their properties from Fox. And it's just like, do you realize how much money Disney would be offering this guy? Would need to take from this guy to give him the rights. Like, they're probably going for. I know Buffy the Vampire Slayer isn't a high stakes franchise, but at the same time, a high cost franchise. But still, man, like, you really want to do this again? I mean, didn't you learn anything from Nelson Peltz when you try to combat with Disney? Did you learn from Ron DeSantis when you try to combat with Disney? Disney will not let you win until hell freezes over. And there have been those times every once in a while where it has worked out against them, but they always keep coming back for more. And it's just like, the whole thing is just so stupid. It makes no sense whatsoever why this guy is doing this, except the fact that he's got a lot of mental problems. He needs help. He needs anything. Someone just needs to take away his internet privileges, or just get him out of that room that he's stuck in like, is able to do this shit with. It's like, somebody needs to do something about this. It's gonna be too late, because like, if this restraining order hasn't been resolved yet, that guy still has an opportunity to do something horrible to this person or anybody at the studio. And yeah, like, something really needs to be done here about this man. Like, this is getting out of hand. Like, this got ridiculous pretty quickly. But it's just like, almost starting off on the fact that this guy was so hell-bent on getting the rights to this one TV show for no reason whatsoever, except that Disney has it, I want it. And just like, again, good luck ponying up the money for that. I'm just saying, it's probably not going to happen if that's the case. So yeah, that was a very stupid story from this past week that I wanted to bring to your attention. Let's go ahead and move on to some recommendations, and then we can go ahead and wrap the show up. Obviously, the big new release coming up this week in terms of physical releases is Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. We've got a 4K release coming out, a nice-looking steelbook. It's a 4K Blu-ray combo pack, the regular Blu-ray set. Movie I really liked a lot, so I'm definitely looking forward to picking that one up this week. Also this week, there's a Gene Wilder documentary that came out a while ago, Remembering Gene Wilder, which I did not get to watch. It was one that I was kind of curious to check out. It's coming out through Kino Lorber, and it's a documentary where you have Gene Wilder's life story told with interviews with Alan Alda, Mel Brooks, Harry Connick Jr., Burton Gilliam, Michael Gruskoff. Sorry about that, I had something in my teeth. But yeah, Alan Alda, Mel Brooks, Harry Connick Jr., Burton Gilliam, Michael Gruskoff, and right now it's going for $20.99 on Amazon. I don't know if it's one of those ones that may come down in price. Like, you'll go into, you know how you go to Dollar Tree and you see like the dollar DVD sets? They have, it's like the dollar DVD and Blu-ray sets. They might have it there down the road, but it's definitely one I want to see at some point. Maybe I can find it on streaming somewhere. I'm pretty sure it is out there somewhere. I just need to remember where it is. We have South Park joining the Panderverse, getting released on Blu-ray for the first time this week. Looks like this does not include not suitable for children, nor the more recent South Park special, the End of Obesity, which probably means they're going to save those for their own separate releases. But there's a Blu-ray version of it coming out, as well as a DVD version of it coming out this week as well. Wild Things is getting a nice-looking Arrow release this week. La Femme Nikita is getting a nice-looking steelbook, the original La Femme Nikita from 1990. The Mighty Quinn, a criminally underrated Denzel Washington movie, is getting a Blu-ray release this week. Directed by Carl Franklin, came out in 1989. I recommend that movie if you haven't seen it already. If you like Devil in a Blue Dress, you'll definitely like The Mighty Quinn. And looks like that's about it in terms of like the big new releases for this week in terms of physical media. A lot of good stuff coming out. A lot of catalog titles, but the big new release is going to be Godzilla x Kong. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on that one. Hopefully, I can find the steelbook version of it somewhere. Like I waited for Dune, so I'll wait for Godzilla if I have to. But with that said, that's going to do it for this episode of the Reviewing Network Live. And of course, we do this show every Sunday night at midnight. And hope you guys could enjoy this and check this out every week. If you like it, hit the like and subscribe button. Check out some of the other episodes we've done. Check out some of the other videos we've done. And we'll see you guys next week for another episode. We'll be on at midnight, Sunday night at midnight. And thank you so much for watching. And that's going to wrap it up for us. So again, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, we are out.